Whatever you want your external customers to feel, your internal employees have to feel first. There's a really good book, and Jack Lanham gives me permission to not talk about, or to talk about some other books, and this one is a great one, and it's by a guy named Vineet Nayar, and it's called Employees First, Customers Second. So I ran that by one of my good big customers, and I was talking about people first, and I told him that we put our employees before customers, and he said, "What? I've never heard that before. I thought you were a customer, focused business." And I said, "We are. I mean, we have our number two core value is a passion for our customers." But I said, just think about it. I said, you may have really good people that are still going to treat customers well, but if you don't really pour into your people and put them first and make sure they know that you've got their back, I'll tell you what, the likelihood of hitting on all cylinders all the time with your external customers is somewhat diminished. So we do focus on our internal folks first, and we're confident that they're delivering the best in products and services, attitude, and everything else to our external customers. This slide used to be called the 6 Keys to Engagement, and I changed it. And I added one, and I'll get to it at the bottom. But in the keys to engagement, you have to let people be themselves. I mean, IBM, for many years was sort of the gold standard, and three-piece suits and the briefcases, and everybody was sort of, cut out of the same mold, or they attempted to. But I can tell you that if you want real engagement from folks, if you want people to really have a passion for the business, you've got to let the best in them come out. So letting people be themselves is part of our empowerment philosophy here at MITech. And we communicate, telling them what's really going on. That's an important part of what we do. Obviously, we don't divulge inappropriately confidential information, but we allow for a flow of information. And I do subscribe to another great business author, Pat Lencioni, when he talks about cascading communication. So it starts with me, and I have a team of 5 or 6 people that report directly to me, and then I encourage them to go beyond that to what we call the senior executive team, and then they are required, they're expected to cascade information throughout the organization, so that if I walk up to somebody and I ask them something that I believe they should know about and they don't know it, well, I'm going to have to start asking some questions and say, why didn't this information flow and get to other people in the organization? So a key to engagement is a steady flow of information. You can't go about this with the motive to extract more production out of people. They will sniff that out faster than you can imagine. It's really about how much value you're willing to instill in them. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and I believe that we do a good job with appropriate performance and planning reviews with our people. We work on areas that need improvement, but we really do our best to magnify their strengths because that's really where our people shine. So really look at instilling value in your people and magnifying publicly their strengths. People like to know that they're being recognized, and make them proud. You have to stand for more than shareholder value. We used to have a boss around here many years ago, and I remember hearing him one time when somebody asked a question and said, what is a core competency or a key for MITech? And he said, to enhance shareholder value. This is before we were owned by Berkshire, so let's go back a long time. And I remember, sitting as a leader back then and thinking, gosh, that doesn't inspire me, and I'm actually a shareholder. So just think about everybody else in the organization and say, okay, so I guess we're all about just improving shareholder value, and nobody cares very much about me. But that's not true. And if you really pour into your people, make them know that you really care, and make them proud about your mission and vision for the company, I'll tell you something, they're going to be engaged. We do our best to make work meaningful. Even the most mundane work can be meaningful if you're willing to point it out. I had a young man who stood on the end of a metal stamping line and watched, and he does this today, watches boxes fill with metal parts. And when that box is full, he moves it along and another box is put in place, and he stands there and he watches it fill and he moves it along. And he didn't think that his job was very important. So I said to him, what do you think would happen to the company if I was missing for a couple of weeks? And he said, gosh, I guess, things would really, be a problem. I mean, things wouldn't work properly. I said, on the contrary, I said, things would probably work smoother if I wasn't around for a couple of weeks. But let me ask you this, I said, what would happen if you were away from your press for 2 minutes? And he said, well, the box would fill up and would overflow, and there'd be, metal parts all over the place. And he said, we'd have to stop the press and clean it up. I said, exactly. We'd lose production time. Potentially customers would not be, their needs would not be met. I said, your job is extremely valuable. It's different. It's not the same as a salesman or an accountant or an engineer or somebody like that, but make no mistake, it is valuable. So you have to make work meaningful, and part of that is by making sure people know that you believe it's meaningful. The rules of engagement need to be simple. We have core values. Yes, we have a policy manual, and we can refer to that. You can go to the index. You can look things up. It's so much easier if people know just simple rules. I work for Warren Buffett, and he has a very, very simple rule. And he'll say, and he says this openly, he said, lose money for the corporation, he said, and I will be merciful. Lose one shred of our reputation and I will be ruthless. Don't do anything that you believe, if it showed up on the front page of your local newspaper for your family to see, don't do anything that could end up on the front page of your newspaper. So he just makes things very simple, and he told me not too long ago, talking about an acquisition that might have been a little bit too complicated. He said, let's gain the yardage between the hash marks on the field. We don't have to be outside the hash marks and get knocked out of bounds. So we try to keep things simple here, and we go by our core values, number one being integrity, and number two being a passion for our customers, teamwork, empowered purpose partners, and on and on. So as long as people understand our core values, we're pretty sure that they're going to find a better opportunity to be engaged. And this last one's the one I added. People do not want to be motivated. I know there's a lot of books written about it. My personal opinion is it's just a higher form of manipulation. It's external. It could be a carrot. It could be a stick. But it's not something that's sustainable. People want to be inspired. And that comes from within. And that comes from within because the environment that they're working in allows that to happen. So do things that inspire people. We do a lot of things outside of the normal business X's and O's here that make people feel very special.